Welcome to the first class of Judaism, Gift to the World. This is a very, very good course. I hope you enjoy it. I enjoy preparing for it because a lot of the courses, deals with mysticism and deep concepts and thought. I think you'll find the subject matter a lot easier this time. Very, very down to earth, because it's going to take us on a journey, historical journey, of morality and ethics that the world obviously takes for granted. But we're going to see that it wasn't always that way. And until the Jewish people came on the scene and really went around the world was a very barbaric place. And a lot of the things that the world takes for granted today was brought to the world by Jewish people. So, a lot of people, when they think about this course, they think about all the things that Jews have invented. You ever see that meme or that thing go around? These BDS people say, "That's it. We are." There's an email going around that says, "Okay, you're anti-Israel. Okay, then you have to give up like the following list of all these inventions that everyone uses." Do you know, like Google, for example? Jews. That was us. Pacemaker, that was it too. You know what I'm saying? So there's a bunch of, but this course is not going to be about the pacemakers and the Googles and Instant Messenger and Waze. All this was all these different things. It's not a list of accomplishments that Jewish people have done. I remember I was invited to something about Israel and Jewish people talk. So other rabbis were invited. So what does a Chabad rabbi do when he needs something to talk about? So I went to the Rebbe's talk and I opened up, and the Rebbe has a whole talk about Jewish people, connection to the homeland. It's going back all these years, and right, beautiful. Other rabbi gets up and says something very nice. Jews, what have Israelis invented? I mean, I thought to myself, that's nice, but that's not what makes Israel special. The fact that we invented, we discovered some kind of drug, that's not what makes Judaism special. So it's not actually going to be a theological course. It's going to be about Jewish people living amongst the Gentiles, living in all four corners of the earth. What has the effect been on the societies, and also what we can do going forward. And that's really what it's about. Okay, so I put in front of you a piece of paper. So we'll start off with a question, okay? And the question is try to identify the best and most foundational values, attitudes that every society should have. Something, if you were starting a society, you're starting to say, what values should society have?
One? Oh,
1, 2, 3, I don't know,
okay.
Whichever. It's a small piece of paper, so I can't imagine, That's really the exercise on 1.1. Oh, here we go. Not up to here. If your paper doesn't include baseball, I'm not picking it up. I'm not reading it for the mic.
I put soccer.
Wrong pipe. Paper. You're not being graded on the essay. Let's go. Helen? Okay, here we go. So, in no random order here. So what do we have here? We have here respect, honesty, sharing, empathy, compassion, respect others, treat them as you treat yourself, generosity, compassion. A lot of these things which we all say has to be there. Imagine a world, a society where it wasn't like that. We take it for granted. We go anywhere in the world pretty much, and we think that I remember when I got married, and I got married in Buenos Aires. I come to Buenos Aires, and people are wearing their backpacks backwards. They're not backpacks, they're front packs. Mm-hmm. So I remember asking my wife, why? Oh, because people get mugged over here, and to me, coming from, I don't know, to me, I wear my backpack. No.
Not anymore.
No, I'm saying I didn't even. I don't think twice, right? So you walk down the street and you're able to live a pretty much safe life and everything else. We take it for granted we can go anywhere in the world and it's like that. But the fact of the matter is, other societies didn't have this until the Jewish people had an impact on them. If you look at text number 1, because I'm not going to quote a rabbi because you're going to say, of course, a rabbi is going to say this. You ever heard of John Adams, second president of the United States, first vice president of the United States, signer of the Constitution, part of the Congress? I mean, he's a pretty important person, right? And he said, text number 1, he said, I will insist. I'm doing my best. That the Hebrews have done more to civilize men than any other nation. If I were an atheist and believed in blind eternal fate, I should still believe that fate has ordained the Jews to be the most essential instrument for civilizing the nations. If I were an atheist of the other sect who believe or pretend to believe that all is ordered by chance, I should believe that chance has ordered the Jews to preserve and propagate to all mankind the doctrine of a supreme, intelligent, wise, almighty sovereign of the universe, which I believe to be the great principle of all morality, and consequently of all civilization. So where did it all start from? Okay, where did this all come from? It started with one guy, Abraham. Abraham has a son, Isaac. Isaac has a son, Jacob. Jacob has 12 sons that go down to Egypt. We're reading about it now. They come out of Egypt. We're actually reading in this week's Torah portion. They're giving the 10 Commandments, and God comes down on the mountain and gives them this code. The word Torah doesn't mean Bible. The word Torah means guide. And in the guide, there's obviously things that conduct between man and God, but a lot of it is also between man and another man. Today, we take the Old Testament to be, of course, the Bible is the best-selling book of every year. You know that, right? The Bible is the best-selling book of every year. It's not even close. Yeah, it's not. It's not even. Like, even if Harry Potter or whatever it is, or what's that guy? The Lord of the Rings, whatever it is, right? Right? It's not even close. Okay, we take it for granted. But the fact of the matter is, when Abraham and the Jewish people came on the scene, it was such a radical idea. Do you know how many years after Judaism came Christianity? The early Christians? About 1,400 years later. They're early Christians. But it means the Torah was given 3,320 or 34 years ago. Yeah, 2020. It's going to be right. Emperor Constantine adopts the official religion of Rome in the year 350. And before that, there was a whole struggle. That means, well, the Judaism has been preaching for, let's say, almost close to 1,500 years. Then the Christians come, and the early Christians, we know, were all Jews. They borrow a lot of the ideas of Christianity, of Judaism, and what they did was very smart. Right? Because we all know, you walk into the kitchen and shul, there's 2 sinks, there's an oven, and all these things. They came in and said, listen, you can have the ideas, the benefits of Judaism, but not the laws of Judaism. Right? You could go to heaven and all that. All you got to do is just believe. You don't have to keep kosher, and you don't have to be circumcised. It caught on. So the Christians brought the concept of morality. And then later, Muhammad was born in the 600s, so figure 700 years after Christianity comes the Christians. In fact, over 55% of the world, this is, I think, according to 2015 poll, 55% of the world's population ascribes to one of the Abrahamic beliefs of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But it took a long time. It took a very, very long time for this to come incorporated into today's society. And ancient societies, the Romans, the Greeks, this concept of, and today we're going to focus on one important concept that Judaism has brought, that's charity. That's looking out for your neighbor. The concept of community. Today, what are we talking about? Of course, right? But in fact, it wasn't like that. And this is where I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I'm just going to skip over here. So what Jewish ideas have impacted civilizations beyond religious belief? Because we're not going to talk about the monotheism, the fact that Muslims believe in one God and the Christians believe in. It's not a religious class. Am I going too much to that? It's going to be an ideas class. Okay. So if you look at text number, let's go to. We're going to skip ahead. Okay. If you look at text number 15a, page 19. Okay, we're going to come back to the beginning.
15?
Page 19, text 15. Okay? This is from a book, an historian, and he's talking about the concept of charity. He's talking the concept of giving in ancient Greek and Roman culture. No. Are you page 19? Yes?
Oh.
Page 19?
1-9.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. And he says like this. This is from Peter Vanderhorst in a book called Organized Charity in the Ancient World. Okay? And he says, in Greek culture, the well-to-do were never expected to support or help the poor. The Greek word philanthropia, anyone who speaks ancient Greek, you'll forgive me if my accent is not, I'm still working on my Spanish accent, so, I kind of forgot to practice my ancient Greek. Never had the sense of our modern philanthropy. One who is philanthropos towards one's own people, parents and other family members, and guests or strangers, not towards the poor. For exhortation to give alms to the poor, one looks in vain to Greek and Roman literature. Basically, ancient Greek and Roman literature, there's no concept of giving money to the poor. Greek moralists do not admonish people to concern themselves about the fate of the poor. Except, incidentally, when someone had been unexpectedly hit with a great catastrophe, he had money, you lost it, and now we're going to help him get it back so you can get paid back. To be sure, generosity, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that next word, was praised as a virtue, but the poor were never singled out as its object. It was always directed to humans in general. When Greek literature speaks about the joy of giving to others, nothing to do with altruism, but only with the desired effect of giving, namely honor, prestige, fame, status. Honor is a driving motive behind the most of the Greek beneficence. And it is for this reason that the Greek word philotimia, love of honor, and also philodoxy, I think I'm doing better with the Greek words than English words here, could develop the meaning of generosity and beneficence not directed towards the poor, but to fellow humans in general. Especially those from whom one could reasonably expect a gift in return. So here we see, say, give to him who gives, but do not give to him who does not give in return. So here we see Greeks talking about how there was no concept of giving. There was no concept of giving to the poor in Greek. You give because you hope to get back. Text 15b, another book, The Story of Civilization. Charity found little scope in this frugal life. Hospitality survived as a mutual convenience at a time when inns were poor and far between. But the sympathetic Polybius, 2nd century Greek historian, reports that in Rome no one ever gives away anything to anyone if you can help it. Doubtless an exaggeration. So was there giving? Maybe. It wasn't altruistic. Why would you give something to something poor? Because you realize you have to help them. There's a concept of something greater than yourself. If you're giving because it's to benefit you, then what it really is an investment. You're not giving. Now, in my research, I remember for this class, I remembered I was listening to a class in history, and everyone ever heard of an author called Barbara Tuchman? Yes, no, yes, no. Barbara Tuchman. Barbara Tuchman is a historian, and she wrote a book called The Distant Mirror. She goes through history. And she has a whole book dedicated to the Black Plague, the Black Death. And I want to read to you, okay? It's a little lengthy, but I want to drive home the point that although Christianity did adopt the concept of charity, but they didn't fully adopt it. They didn't adopt it in the 100% correct way because they failed at a time. And this is where we're going to go forward. We're going to learn what does the Torah demand of us in our communal and individual responsibility. Okay? Here it goes. Okay, this is from her book. There were many to echo the account of humanity, and few to balance it. For the plague was not the kind of calamity that inspired mutual help. Its loathsomeness and deadliness did not herd people together in mutual distress, but only prompted their desire to escape each other. A Franciscan friar in Sicily states, magistrates and notaries refused to make out the wills of the dying. What was worse, even the priests did not come to hear confessions or hear last rites. A clerk of the Archbishop of Canterbury reported the same of the English priest, who turned away from the care of their children in the church for fear of the death. Cases of parents deserting children and children deserting parents were recorded across Europe, from Scotland to Russia. The calamity chilled the hearts of men, wrote Boccaccio in his famous account of the plague in Florence, that serves the introduction to the Cameron. One man shunned another. Kinsfolk held aloof. Brother was forsaken by brother, husband by wife. Nay, what is more scarcely to be believed, mothers and fathers were found to abandon their own children to their fate, unattended, alone, unvisited, as if they had been strangers. Exaggeration, literally, and literary pessimism are common in the 14th century, but the Pope's physician was a somber and careful observer who reported the same phenomenon. A father did not visit his son, nor did a son visit his father. Charity was dead. That's an account.
So what year was that exactly?
The 1300s.
I was listening the news about the coronavirus,
Yeah.
and in China might happen what you're telling now, because they closed the city of 11 million people,
Few cities.
and
Yeah.
they are not sending anything to eat or
Right.
anything. That-
I was thinking.
and it's going to be,
Yeah.
there's no charity there. How people are afraid.
Yeah. Now, this is contrasted because not that many Jews in China. Let's go back to the Black Plague. But Jews in the Black Plague, we don't know how many, but we know there was less. What the percentage was, it's impossible. We don't have, but we know there was less. Why? So Jews have something called the Chevra Kadisha. Chevra Kadisha is the burial society, which demands every person must be buried, and they must be washed before burial. There's a very, very interesting. We have recorded questions sent to the rabbi. So the rabbis would write down the question sent to them, and also the answer. They would send away the answer, but they would keep it. And we have books published from the 1200s, 1100, 13, 14, 15. We kind of have an account of Jewish history. We know what was going on in Jewish history based on the questions that people asked the rabbis of the time. So there was a question. This was printed in the Sefer Hasidim from the 1100s. Also appears in the book 1400s and 1500s as well. What is the responsibility if there's someone who's sick, a contagious virus? What is the responsibility about caring for them and about burying them? Basically, do I have to put myself in harm's way? So the answer, very, very interesting answer, said this was the answer given. No one is forced. You can't say any one individual is forced, but it's a communal responsibility to make sure it's done. You have to pay more, hire somebody, whatever it is. Whatever is necessary. The sick have to be attended, and the dead have to be buried. And we see that actually that Black Plague really brought together the concept of community. Where does it come from? Okay, let's go back in order now with the course. Okay, ready? Let's go back to exercise 1.2. Page 4. Write down an instance in which you saw someone and you helped them. Why did you help them? If write down an instance where you saw someone who needed help and you did not help them, why didn't you help them? And maybe tell the person next to you, and whoever's listening, just listen. The idea is just to get a feedback of where you stand.
We have two retired social workers. Truly.
Oh yeah. Oh,
You
but
studied
she's
But she's a
Now,
former-
in my latest years.
Oh, okay.
We studied social work in Argentina.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I worked here like 20 years.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay. So why are you thinking about that? Why are you thinking about that? Let's go back to the book of Genesis. We went in the book of Exodus, the Ten Commandments. Let's go to the book of Genesis. In the first three portions of the Torah, we are introduced to three very important people. Portion number 1, Adam. Portion number 2, Noah. Portion number 3, Abraham. Who's the first Jew? Abraham. Right? Adam, we can say Adam ate from the tree. Right? He screwed up. God. Right? The world becomes corrupt. And God says, we're starting all over again with Noah. Right? Noah builds the ark. The world becomes a big swimming pool. Noah comes out of the ark. The family spreads out. Interestingly enough, though, we're not called the sons of Noah. We're called the sons of Abraham. Right? We know how we refer to Gentiles? The sons of Noah. Children of Noah. We refer to humanity as the children of Noah. But us, the Jewish people, we call ourselves the children of Avraham, of Abraham. Why? So the answer to that, if you can compare text number 2 and text number 3 and see if you can pick up the answer on your own. Before, why was Abraham chosen as the forefather? The question is on the screen.
Because he had compassion.
Where do you see that?
In the story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
And where do you see Noah didn't have compassion?
He just built the boat.
Exactly.
I mean, no one's supposed to come, no one's coming.
Exactly. Ellen hit it on that. God told Noah, I'm upset. The world's a terrible place. I'm going to destroy the world. You're a nice guy. So build a boat so you can survive. Noah says, well, God said the world's a bad place. And he is God. Who am I to argue with God, right? If you want to destroy the world, destroy the world. So Noah, and the last line of text number 2, Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Now, text number 3, God goes up to Abraham and said, Abraham, the people of Sodom are terrible. Abraham knew that. They deserve destruction. Abraham knew that. So I'm going to destroy them. Abraham says, what? You're going to destroy? I'm sure you can find a few people. Actually, the argument goes even longer. Argument goes, because there were actually 5 cities. It was a metropolis of like 5 cities. So let's try to say 5 cities. Okay, now you can't say 5 cities, 4 cities, 10 people, maybe 40 people, 45. The conversation goes on and on. This is why we are the children of Abraham, not the children of Noah. Because to be a Jew means that you feel a responsibility to other people, even though it's not affecting you.
But he was questioning.
It's okay. It's okay to question God.
Wow.
100%. 100%. Now, you remind me of a story. I think it's a joke story. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but the point of it is very powerful. Where after the Holocaust, these rabbis got together and said they're bringing God to court, to a communal court, because where was he? So they're arguing back and forth, and finally one rabbi gets up and says, "Quick, we have to finish because we have to pray mincha." Right? That means questioning God has nothing to do with the fact that you still have to do what God says. That's why, for example, actually the Rebbe spoke about one of the problems that we have is that we don't ask for Mashiach to come. God, we know God wants us to argue with Him. That's why God loves Moses so much. Moses is the one that's always challenging God.
I thought we were supposed to accept.
You are supposed to accept. And I mean, if God says like the Shabbos candles, you like the Shabbos candles. But at the same time, when there's an injustice, you learn from Abraham in this paragraph.
Now
What?
I know.
What? Says,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean because it doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense. What we're asking God is, don't do things in a backward way where we have to believe. Justice should be justice. Good should be good. Don't challenge us, right? The guy does something right, get reward, right? Now, obviously, the world worked that way. We know free choice. Nobody want to punish him. But basically, the concept of Mashiach is the fact that the problem is that we're happy, you have to believe in God as a being, but question the way it's expressed here in the world. So the reason is that Abraham, even though by the way, again, God didn't say, "Listen, I'm going to destroy some of your stuff," and Abraham was protecting himself. Abraham wasn't protecting himself here. He had no skin in the game. Abraham feels compassion for other people. You know what's interesting? If you look in the book of Isaiah, the flood that destroyed the world is called the waters of Noah, meaning it's blamed on Noah.
Wow.
Even though he's a righteous person, it's blamed on Noah. Now, why is it blamed on Noah? So the rabbis explained to them they got from there, that's a prophecy, which means it was inspired by God, right? They got from there that maybe, because again, we don't know for sure, because Abraham prayed and God still destroyed Sodom. But maybe, just maybe, if Noah would have prayed, then maybe God would have, spared part of the. I don't know. We never know. But it's called because of his failure to have responsibility for other beings. Then the flood is attributed to him. This is the problem. The problem is, I'll tell you a story. When my brother and I have kids born like very close to each other. Sarah, if you know my daughter Sarah, she doesn't sit still. Imagine when she was a baby. And my niece used to sit there and play, and so I one time told my father, I said, I don't know, I see her sitting there all relaxed, and Sarah doesn't stop. Why can't you just be like her? She said, no. You want a kid that's alive and rebels, and kid just sits there like a lemon, like a sheep, doesn't follows all the rules. You don't want that kid, right? Right. So the problem with Noah is Noah follows all the rules. God said, I don't want you to follow the rules. I want you to question me. I want you to question me. How could it be that bad things happen to good people? God, in the end, Abraham says, God tells Abraham, there are no good people. While Abraham was praying that maybe if he gave them a chance, they'll repent. But the sin, what they did, the cruelty of Sodom was legendary. In fact, in the city of Sodom, they outlawed charity. That's actually why they got destroyed. They outlawed charity. And anyone who gave charity, they executed. Yeah.
You had to be bad.
Yeah, they were bad. That's why they are the prototype for evil, right? You see Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah. So, but the concept that even though they were bad, this is what's special about Avraham. He cares about them not because they're good people. He cares about them although they're special. And this is why God chooses Avraham. You see in text number 4. Text number 4, page 7. God says, Avraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I love Avraham because he instructs his children and his household to follow the path of God by doing charity and justice. So what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to be a child of Avraham? To be a child of Avraham means you have compassion. And it's interesting. A lot of the greatest biblical heroes, their introduction to us in the Torah is acts of compassion. So, for example, the story of Eliezer right? Avraham sends his servant Eliezer to find a wife for his son Yitzchak. Eliezer comes to the well, and he says, how do I know who's fit to marry the daughter, the son of Avraham, Yitzchak? A woman who has compassion. So he goes to a girl and he says, I just came from far away. I'm thirsty. My camels are thirsty. And she says, of course. And she goes and she runs right away. Eliezer says, I'm a stranger. Well, she owes me nothing. Same thing with Moshe. Right? What's the story we know from Moshe? First day he comes out and there's an Egyptian killing a Jew. What does he do? Self-defense. And in the end he had to escape. Second, and then he sees two people fighting. And he breaks up the fight. And when he comes to Midian and the Baal shepherds are abusing and taking advantage of Yisro's daughters by the well, he gets up to defend them. And we have countless stories of the greatest Jewish history, the greatest heroes of Jewish history, being the introduction to us is a compassion. Why is this? Because the Gemara says, because the Gemara says, the Gemara says, you see text number 5, all Jews are one unit. And as such, all Jews are responsible for one another. We're like a ship with a hole that has ruptured in one room. Right? The guy, let's say you're on a ship. The guy says, I'm going to put a hole on my side. You go to him and say, oh, are you crazy? What's your problem? It's my side of the ship. You stay in your side of the ship. I'll be on my side of the ship. Obviously, that's insane. We are all we are all there together. So the concept that Judaism tells us is the concept of social responsibility. We all have to help another person. Why? Because they need help. Now it's interesting. In the U.S., there is no law mandating that you have to help another person. If you're driving down the road and you see somebody in need of help, and you don't, could the police arrest you?
No.
Not only that, if you stop to help somebody and somehow you hurt them or something,
You get in trouble.
no, there's a Good Samaritan law. You don't get in trouble. They made the Good Samaritan law, unless you're negligent.
Let me tell you, I cannot even count, not even 3,000 times that people not even open the door for me, ever.
So I used this example a few times in this class. There was an example. Remember Superstorm Sandy in New York? There was a crazy storm up in New York.
Yes.
There was a woman who was a nurse, and she had to go, and she had her 2 kids with her, and she lived next to the water, and she made the mistake of going out. She thought, I'm just going to drop the kids off at her mother's house. The water overwhelmed the car, and she was by a door. She was knocking on the door, and the guy refused to open the door. And her kids drowned. She made it, and her kids drowned. She tried to break the window, she couldn't. So afterwards, they went to him and they said, when do you open the door? So he said, I have no obligation to open the door. She was being irresponsible, being outside. And the police looked for any way to charge him. Nothing you can do. You remember that story like 3-4 years ago also of those kids who took a video of the guy drowning? There was a story. And again, the police try to look for some legal way to prosecute them. You can't prosecute them. You have no obligation to help another person. You know, in Israel, by the way, there's a law. It's actually based on the biblical law. It says, Lo samud adam recha, you're not allowed to stand on your brother's blood, which basically means you can't stand idly by while somebody's in danger. So there is a law in Israel that if you have the opportunity to help and you don't help, you can be fined. But in U.S. they made a rule though. If you help, you can't be prosecuted. Although you should know, by the way, there was a case. I mean, there are crazy lawsuits of this lady got into a crash. I think it was a lady, and her car was on fire, and the guy ran, pulled her out of the car, saved her life. But she was injured, and by pulling her out of the car, she got more injured. The guy wasn't thinking; he was just trying to save her life, and she sued him. And I think she won.
That's why people.
Yeah, that's why people don't help you. Even if when I fall, I fell at the mall. There were all people around. Nobody came. That's why I use the walker. I could use a cane, but it feels so. And I help people. For me, it's a good deed. I said you have to do a good deed. If I go to the supermarket, I said to a person, "Do you need this? Do you need that?" I feel dignified as a person helping. It comes from my inside. Even from.
It comes.
I didn't read it.
It comes from Avram.
Oh,
It comes from passed down from Avram and Sarah, passed down from generation to generation.
Feeling when you are helping someone without they asking you, you feel like for me it's like being selfish in a way.
I'll
Because
tell
it
you,
feels so good.
we were in Argentina just now. You're from Argentina, right?
Yes.
So we were crossing Cordova, the big street,
Yeah.
Cordova and Portodon. Anyway, so we were crossing the whole family together, and there was an older lady walking slow, and the light turns there because Cordova's a pretty quick street, and she was trying to.
Tell me about it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So I stopped, and I said, "You need help?" Yeah, she said, "Yeah." I put my hand out, and I helped her cross the street. Whatever. And then I told the car to stop. So my daughter asked me, "Why do you do that?" I said, "Because the Torah says, you see a person needs help, you help them." I'll tell you a story.
I like this story.
I'll tell you a story. My mother was once driving a car. I think I told you. If you've been in this class, you've heard this story before. My mother was driving a car, and she got a flat tire up in upstate New York. This guy pulls over, a Chassidish guy, not a Chabad guy, another sect of the Chassid. And he had one of these like SUVs. Opens it up, and he has this whole like mobile mechanic flat tire shop, and he has a jack, and none of them those junky jacks that come with the car, and one of these like professional. He patches. He fixes the tire, puts it on. So my mother says, how can I repay you? She says, "Lady, helping another person is my mitzvah, and for a mitzvah, I don't take money. I don't take money for my mitzvah." So, but this concept of helping another person, that's actually not normal. Meaning, it's taught. Because by nature, we like to take care of ourselves.
Do we have to teach the babies that?
Of course.
Yeah,
because babies by nature.
Be nice. Give it. Share the toy.
Yeah.
Because they won't share.
Yeah, that's what you should, it's
Only
written
me
somewhere
and me.
that babies are born with their hands closed. Because when a child is born, when smaller you are, as babies, right, the more you think the world revolves around you. Like for example, if you go to Tzir, try to give Tzir a hug in front of Kalman, my baby, he's going to come over right away and hug Tzir or cry. Why? Because to him, Tzir belongs to him.
So sweet.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Sole property. I'm sure that's the way it was, right? Right? When babies are born, our hands are closed because the way we are as human beings, we think the world revolves around us. And as we get older and our hands open up, we realize that, something? Maybe there's something greater than us. But the concept of charity, of caring for another person, that's something that's taught. And if you're a child of Avram, it's taught to you from very, 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 very little. And it's born into it's ready. It's ready. It's ready in your blood. Let's go explore the mitzvah of tzedakah, mitzvah of charity in Judaism.
What page?
Page 8.
Ah. I thought
Right?
we were going.
How do we relate to the poor members of society? So it says like this. It says over here, if there will be a needy person, text 6, among you, in one of your cities, the land that God has given you, you have to open your hand and you have to supply for him. In fact, if you look at figure 1.1, again, the fact that today we don't consider ourselves an agricultural society, but that is only in the past 100 years. That means for 5,500 years, human beings were only agricultural society. So all the mitzvot in the Torah are pretty much agricultural. How they translate into modern society is a discussion for. If you look at figure 1.1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns, 6 separate mitzvot, in which we have to care for the poor. You harvest the field, you have to leave a corner behind for what's called payah. You're gathering the stalks of wheat, some of them fall on the floor, you leave it on the floor. If let's say you forgot a bundle, because what they do is first they cut the wheat, then they put them in bundles, and then they gather the bundles. Actually, I'll tell you a story. There was a son who was working in the field of his father, and he comes and he forgot a bundle, and he goes to his father and he says, "Dad, I'm sorry, I screwed up." He says, "What?" I didn't realize planting back then was a lot of hard work. There was no machinery back then. Plowing, sowing, a lot of hard work. So a bundle of wheat was a nice investment. So he said, what do you do? He said, "I forgot a bundle of wheat in the field." He says, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, that's awesome news! We got to go to the temple and offer a sacrifice." It's like, "Dad, step back. I said, I forgot a bundle of wheat." He says, "That's great. It's the only mitzvah in the Torah you can do by not trying to do the mitzvah." Because shikha means you forget. If you purposely forget, it's tzedakah. It's not shikha. So he was all excited because it's a very, very rare mitzvah to do. Right? That's one of the... Parrot. Parrot is when fallen grapes, underdeveloped grapes. All these, Meister Ani, the agricultural cycle in the land of Israel was divided into 7-year cycles. Right? 7-year being the sabbatical year, right? On the third year, 10% of all produce went to the poor people. So the Torah says that we have a responsibility to make sure that the poor people have money. Now, let's get a little Talmudic, okay? This is the question, text number 7. This is the question proposed to the Rashba. The Rashba lived in the 1200s, passed away in the year 1310. All right, Rabbi Shlomo ben Aderet, famous rabbi. He's printed in the back of all the Talmud, right? Very, very famous Talmudist and halachic authority. And this is the question that's posed to him in text number 7. All right, there are many poor people in the city, and the cost of living is high. A dispute has arisen between the well-off members of society. The wealthy upper class argues that the poor should go collecting door to door, and we'll give them whatever they need. But why? Because we'll give them some, and the middle class will give them some, because the middle class is also obligated to feed the poor. The middle class, they disagree. They say the poor should not be made to go out and beg because they are our brethren. They argue that the sustenance of the poor is a communal obligation and must contribute toward this in accordance with their wealth. Please let us know which side is correct. So this is the question in Jewish law. How is charity given? Is it an individual discretion? You come to my door, I'm feeling good, I'll give you $100, $1,000, is that right? Or do we say, no, we are going to tax you to make sure that there's the social programs, to make sure that poor families have what they need, whether you're in a good mood or you're not in a good mood. So is it up to is individual? So the wealthy people said it's individual discretion. The middle class said it's a communal. So which one do you wait before you? Okay, you want to give your opinion and then learn, or learn and then give your opinion?
I like to
I
listen.
think it's the communal obligation.
What do you think?
Communal.
Communal, you think?
Communal.
All right. So look at 8A. 8A, the grade. Exercise 8A, 8B, 8C. So the answer, it's one answer, but 3 parts to the same answer. 3 concepts of the 3 answers. 3 parts of one answer. Right? So read 8A, 8B, and 8C. No, I'll get something to drink. Water. Only because it's being recorded live. You know?
And I don't understand. Is the
Where are you?
Is our obligation in the to the community?
Which text are you in?
Text 8A. A high form of charity.
So text 8a, the Maimonides is talking about different levels of charity. There are actually 8 levels of charity. They're not all listed here. It's kind of a quote from the middle. Higher form of charity is to give to the poor without the giver knowing. To them they give, and so this way they don't be embarrassed, and you don't know. You don't look down upon them. No, right? 8b is a quote from the Talmud, and 8c is actually a part of a story. So I'm going to start going through it, okay? So there are 3 basic ideas. In short, you guys are right. The Rashba answered that the middle class is 100% right. Not a little bit right, 100% right. And it's a 3-part answer. By the way, all 8a, 8b, and 8c are quoted in the Rashba's answer. They're part of the Rashba's answer. And he says, number 1, just because the person is poor doesn't mean they don't have a sense of dignity. Let me tell you something. I fundraise. It's not the greatest thing in the world to ask for money. And I'm not asking money for myself. I'm asking money for the show. Right? Imagine a person is forced to ask for money for the bread. It's very uncomfortable. So Rashba is saying, we see in text number 8a, the highest mitzvah, one of the highest forms is to give without the poor knowing, without the poor asking, without the giver knowing who he's giving to. This way, the poor can look everyone in the eye, and the giver doesn't know. Oh, you give in his mind, he's like, it's not for me. That guy would do nothing. So number 1 is the concept of communal fund to preserve dignity. Number 2. Concept number 2 is that, and we see in the story over here that this is not voluntary. The people in the community who are not as well off is everyone's responsibility, and therefore a tax was levied based on. And back then, taxes weren't federal. Actually, there were 2 types of taxes. There were federal taxes. Even when there was a Jewish king for the army. Right, because a king's job or the president's job is really to protect the citizens. That's really what it's about, right? So a king's job is for the army, right? And then the local government charged taxes. What was that tax for? For community things. And they based it on what they felt. You have to realize communities were a lot smaller then, right? There was towns and villages. Everybody knew everybody and everything about everyone. So they levy taxes based on what they felt you should get. And number 3, the taxes were proportionally based on 8c. We see that this guy, even though he gave charity, he's looked down upon. Why? Because he didn't give as much as he could have. He was very, very wealthy. He gave a lot of charity, but he didn't give as much as he can. So the Rashba answers, the middle class is 100% right. To advocate that, listen, if you're poor, go ask. And if I'm feeling okay, I'll give. No, that's not the Jewish charity. Because, as we're going to see later, the word charity actually is not even a Jewish word. The Jewish word is tzedakah. And many times people translate the word tzedakah as charity, but it's not. We're going to see afterwards. Because charity means you're having a bad day. You come to me. If I'm having a good day, I'm feeling good about myself. Sun's shining. I give you. I woke up on the left side. I don't give you. Rashba said that's not the Jewish way. Now, let me ask you a question. What happens if, let's say, the community, let's say there's Yankel Brown, all right, and the community decides that he gets $500 a week, right, and $500 is not enough. Is he allowed to go ask for more? And if he asks for more, so the answer is, we're not going to stop you from begging, but we can compel individual, right? We compel everybody to give so everyone has what to eat. If that's not enough, you can go and ask for more, but that's up to you. But we're going to give you so you have enough to make it through the day. And let's look at something very, very interesting that an English writer named Lancelot Addison, English writer, and a Church of England clergyman in the second half of the 17th century, because society really, really changes. Society as we know it, actually, it's interesting, grows from the Black Death. After the Black Death comes the Renaissance. The Renaissance was really a result, because when they saw the failure of the way things worked then, so Renaissance, Enlightenment, all that, so this 15, 16, 1700s, where people really start to think for themselves. I know it's a radical idea. That's a result. So he writes in the late 1600s, right? He worked as a chaplain. This Addison, Lancelot Addison, worked as a chaplain in Tangier, Morocco, for 7 years, and he became very familiar with the Jewish community. And he was very impressed. And on his return to England, he published a book about the Jews. And interestingly, he observed the communities in North Africa. And he wrote like this, text number 9. Those who have observed that the Jews have no beggars, because back then they said, Jews have don't give charity, whatever it is, seem not well informed of the manner of their alms and the way of providing for the poor. Because he walked into the Jewish community, there were no people walking around, harassing people. Why? Because there was a concept in olden times called a kuppah.
In non-Jewish communities?
No, in Jewish communities, called a kuppah. Kuppah, K-U-P-P-A-H. Kuppah it means a box. Basically, it means it was a communal fund that when people needed, they went there, and there was a person in the community called a parnes, and his job was to oversee this communal fund and to give out to people, and it was on a weekly basis. You having a hard week? We'll help you. Go try to find a job, whatever it is. You have a hard time? Come back next week.
It's also used in the Yiddish for kupa.
Yeah.
Because I remember from my saying that word, I have just brought back memories.
Yeah. It's still used today. You go to Israel, kupa, yeah. Kupas this, kupa, yeah. It's still used. In fact, the Rambam writes that he's not aware of one Jewish community that does not have a kupa. So the Gentiles thought, Jews are money hungry. They don't give charity. Why? Because he walked into the Jewish community. There weren't people on the streets, harassing walker-by saying, please give me money. Why? Because they knew they had a place to go to get what they needed. For it is true, continuing, that we may not reckon these people among the beggars, as that word usually implies seeking relief from house to house. For though among the Jews in Barbary, that's North Africa, there is a great store of needy persons, yet they are supplied for in a manner which much conceals to men of other religions their poverty. For the wealthier take care to provide for them, and very much glorify their religion upon this very score. And they live under its profession in a more mutual charity of alms than either the Moors are Muslims. The fanatical Muslims are called the Almohads. Moors were the more tolerant ones. Or Christian, both of which I've heard upbraiding their common beggars with great insult. And it cannot be denied that Jews' manner of relieving their poor is proper and commendable. This is what he wrote. Interesting, by the way, Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister of England, she wrote in a book that she wrote this. I have enormous admiration for the Jewish people. My old constituency of Finchley has a large Jewish population. In the 33 years I presented it, I never had a Jew come in poverty and desperation to one of my contingency surgeries. It had always been looked after by their own. That means Judaism understood there's going to be poor people, there's going to be people down on the luck, need to establish some kind of fund, some kind of way to make sure these people are not just forgotten about.
And that was the name Coupa.
Coupa was the fund.
The funds, but not now.
No, they still have it. They still have it in some communities. They have communities, but now these communities they have a bunch of different communities. So yeah, they have communities. They have charities for food, for Shabbos. They have charities for. There was in my neighborhood growing up. There was a guy named Shimshon Stock. Shimshon Stock was a big guy, and he used to come to the schools to raise money. He used to come to the big show. He used to speak like this, and he used to say, "My dear friends." That's the organization that gives food for Shabbat and Yom Tov. But you have a big family. Food is very expensive. Right? Kosher food especially. He says, "Chevra Simcha Shabbos v'Yom Tov needs your help. Open your hearts and open your wallets. Take out $1 and give me the wallet." That was his line. That was his grunt.
I remember in Argentina they were coming with the
Pushka.
yes.
Yeah.
And I remember that the father of my best friend, now that lives in Argentina, she's almost 60, her father used to collect the money for going to the Jewish households.
Yeah.
And I remember we didn't have almost nothing to give. And my mother said, always you have to give something.
Yeah. No
I remember since I was very young, and I don't remember the name of I don't remember the name of the
alcancía.
Sí, pero ¿cómo le decían? La
But
campaña.
now there are funds for everything. There's a very good fund that helped. I know I donate to them myself. They help poor children, for weddings and food and clothes. I mean, they have. There's
Very weird to see people. I don't remember seeing homeless Jewish people. Not even in Argentina. I saw people. Everybody was even. Producing a little bit to have in their store, but not people that were homeless or on the streets.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I was going back to history. I was once listening to a history class about Jews and in Russia and everything else. But unemployment was everyone had a job. What was the job? You called people up to the Torah on Monday. And you call people to on Thursday, even though really you only need one person. It's not a big job. But everyone had a job. Everyone had something to do. Why? Because everyone has to feel like they're contributing something. Not just not just take, And even though it was the smallest, this guy said, I remember I was in Israel, I think in the 60s or whatever. This guy's job was to bring in tea every day, whatever, to his boss, right? But what did he do the rest of the day? That's not important. His job was to bring in tea. Because in the beginning, Israel, in the 50s, unemployment in Israel was very high. Until the,
United campaign, Campaña Unida.
Yeah.
I noticed that many of the things that you're telling us, of the concept, are law in social welfare.
Yeah.
It applies
it's realized, but this Torah was written 3,500 years ago. When it was written 3,500 years ago, we read the Greek and Roman. You are poor, you're on your own. I help my family maybe. The concept of having a communal fund, which we take for granted now. Right? And I'm going to show you.
It for the law of this country. You see,
let me show you
food stamps.
Thank you for bringing that up. Let me show you a video.
Rent.
I'm going to show you a video. Check this video out. And this is where it's supposed to play.
Dr. David Lukens is chair of the Political Science Department at Touro College. For 20 years, he served on the staff of U.S. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
My two best stories with the Rebbe in public policy, and I used them in class. I used the first one I used in class in American politics as an example. There was a woman in Brooklyn, college teacher, angry black woman named Shirley Chisholm. She got elected to the United States Congress in the mid-60s. She was a fiery speaker. She was considered a black power advocate. Whites were scared silly of her. And she was the first black woman ever elected to the United States Congress, and she was a bomb thrower. So the white Southern racists that ran the U.S. House of Representatives from the South said, we'll teach this blank a lesson. And they assigned her to the Agricultural Committee of the House of Representatives. It was a great gelächter. It was a great joke. I still remember the New York Times front page article said, does a tree grow in Brooklyn? Question mark. They said, you know, the chair, they appointed Shirley Chisholm, not the housing, which she requested, not to a committee on poverty, but the Agriculture Committee. And when she retired from the House, I was there when she told the following story. She said she was very depressed, very upset, and didn't know what to do. She got a phone call. The Lubavitcher rabbi wants to see you. Of course, she was the congresswoman from Crown Heights. She helped win the election, the primary, with the strong support of Lubavitch. She had some very close relationship with people in the Crown Heights community, and she came to see the Rebbe. As he told the story, she had seen him once before when he had refused to endorse her. But then he said, everyone voted for me, so I guess he did something. She was very cute about that. She said, but then she came to see him the second time, and he sat down and he said, I know you're very upset. She said, I am upset. I'm insulted. What should I do? And he said, what a blessing God's given you. This country has so much surplus food, and there's so many hungry people, and you can use this gift that God's given you to feed hungry people. Find a creative way to do it. And she says the first day she came to Washington, she met a young congressman who's now a world-famous figure, Robert Dole, from Kansas. And they started talking, and he said, you know, our farmers have all this extra food. We don't know what to do with it. She said, 1 second, the rabbi. And what we call WIC and food stamps largely expanded. There was a tiny pilot program before the whole existing food stamps program came out of the Agriculture Committee of the United States Congress. And Shirley Chisholm said in front of everyone there in Washington, she said, I owe this because a rabbi who was an optimist taught me optimism, taught me that what God gives, what you may think is a challenge, is a gift from God. She said, if poor children, babies, I heard her say, she said, poor babies have milk, if poor children have food, it's because this rabbi in Crown Heights had vision.
Right.
Good insight.
Right.
Wow.
So, where did the Rebbe get that? From the Torah. But this is not actually, let's move on because it's getting late. This is not actually the highest form of charity. The highest form of charity isn't that someone needs help, The highest form of charity is a person shouldn't need charity. Right? So let's look at poverty prevention, okay? So just a quick review. The advantages, we're going to be on page 15 now. The advantages of communal charity are there's no indignity of the person begging. Number two, the poor person is not embarrassed when they're meeting the benefactor. Number three, there's no public knowledge, right? And number four, even the person who's giving doesn't look down upon the person who's giving because he has no idea. But the highest form of charity, text number 10 Maimonides says, is when you give someone a job. So you're supporting them so they do not come to need charity. The best type of charity is preventive charity. So we should make sure that, and this is this kind of revolutionary concept where we don't allow someone to fall on their feet. Before the Gemara gives an example of it's a lot easier to help prop up an animal with loads than to pick up the animal once it's fallen. Don't wait until it's too late. Help a person even before. So, and where does this come from? So I'm going to introduce you to a concept called Yovel. Jubilee in English. You ever heard of the concept of Jubilee? Mm-hmm. So, in the Torah, when the Jewish people came into the land of Israel, every tribe and every family got a plot of land. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, what happens to that land? Is a family allowed to sell the land? The answer is yes. But it really was a lease. Because when it came 50 years, the land automatically went back to its owner. You only sold the land till Yovel, till Jubilee. It was a set time. It was seven. Remember I told you about the 7-year cycles? Sabbatical? Yeah. You counted 7 cycles, and the 50th year was Jubilee. When Jubilee came, reset, everything goes back. Why? So the concept is, because as we're going to learn, as we'll see in text 12b, text 12b. I basically tell you about text 11 and 12, right? Text 11, 15, and page 15, it takes 12a and 16. The person why would a person sell his land? Because he's poor, right? But why does God command, text 12b, the land should go back? Well, because why did he sell his land in the first place? He's poor. What do we want? We want to break the cycle of poverty. So what we want to do is, we want to give the guy the ability, right? Let's say he had a bad year of crop, right? And he bought seed, he's in debt, for whatever reason he had to sell his land. What we want to do is we want to give this guy a chance, or his children, right? We don't want, debt just to keep going, to get out of poverty, get out of debt. So that's why we say, okay, you sold the land, comes 50th year, start over, starting fresh. Now you can start. Now you can start again.
Somebody can buy the land the year before.
Yeah.
And
1 year lease. But you bought the land based on everybody knew when Yovel was.
yeah.
The land was you bought the land knowing how many years were left to Yovel.
And now, in Israel right now, how is the...
No, now it's not like that because that was only during the temple times when the tribes lived in land of Israel, and Israel was controlled by Jewish governments.
But the government helps a lot to new immigrants. For years they pay the rent, and in Israel.
They did. They don't pay the rent anymore. They did. Mm-hmm. They give tax incentive now, and also they did. Well, because they wanted to incentivize Jews to come. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because I have family there. They're paid in the past. Now they're okay, but they help them a lot.
Yep. Yeah. You get like 3 containers. You can bring 3 containers, no taxes. Also a car. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, because they want to incentivize Aliyah. Yeah. Because they want to make sure that the land of Israel remains a Jewish country. Mm-hmm. So we see over here. That the attitude of the Torah towards poverty isn't, listen, whatever it is, we'll pay our taxes. I'm a good person. And part of that taxes goes to food stamps, WIC, whatever it is. The idea is we want to try to avoid people sinking into poverty in the first place.
And also happened during Clinton administration that he was providing money for training programs. It's like instead of giving you the fish, teaching people to fish. That also, if not, people just are get used to get.
Right. I remember living in New York. Giuliani said that you want to be on welfare, you have to get a job, or you can't find a job,
learning computer,
or then work cleaning up the streets or something.
Yeah, something.
It's amazing how many people went off welfare. Yeah. Right. It's interesting, by the way. I don't want to get too into it because it's already 10 to 9. But the halakha talks about what if someone doesn't want to find the job? Do we have an obligation to
help
provide him? What do you think?
No.
No, huh? What do you think?
I think unless the person has mental health problems or has a very severe problem that cannot do it, but even if it's a little thing, they should be able to do it by themselves. Live independently.
Something.
It's dignifying. Let me tell you, when you can do things for yourself, even if it's a little.
But some people like the free handout.
Until you can.
Oh yeah.
There's some people like that. So actually, the Gemara says that the normal thing is you would rather one of your own than 9 portions given to you. That's normal. Some people. Okay, so let's break it down because remember, until now we've discussed 2 different types of charity, 2 categories of charity: individual charity and communal charity. So let's review very quickly. Okay, what's the Torah's approach to charity? The individual approach to charity, the best is you as an individual, you provide a person who you know needs a job. That's the best. Now, the government, individual is to make sure that each person has an opportunity to make money. In Torah's view, it's agriculture, but again, that would change to modern times. Making sure path to education, making sure people could get a job. We want people to be able to, what's full employment? Full employment is not 100% employment. Full employment is actually 97% employment. Because there are always people that can't work and don't want to work. So full employment is actually 97% employment. So you want to be able that everyone who wants to provide for themselves can. Now, you see, so individual give charity. The government must tax people so that these programs are there. Torah says we're not going to rely on people, waking up on the right side of the bed feeling blessed. And why do we have all these laws? Because text number 13. Text number 13 says, because at the end of the day, God says, everything you have belongs to me. I give you, and I can take it away like that. You guys ever heard of Kobe Bryant?
True.
He had everything until he right?
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's not
We believe that belongs to us, and then we take care of that. We paint it.
No. You're supposed to take care of what you have.
I know,
Right?
but sometimes we do.
But
we put
anytime,
too much emphasis on
right?
on that.
Exactly. Anytime we think that we're the ones to control, we can. The God says that's why that's what that verse text 13 is in the Torah. The land shall not be sold permanently because the land is mine, and you reside in my land as temporary residence. Everything you have, everything is temporary. So the absolute, and we think we own everything, and but the fact of the matter is it's not true. And you see text number 14. The Rosh says. He says, a person might think, text page 18. A person, don't say, but if I give money, I'm going to deplete my funds. Understand that the money is not truly yours, but it's a trust from God that must be administered in accordance with the wishes of the trust owner. God's wish that you disperse from the trust to the poor. And now, I promise you, the Hebrew word for tzedakah is not charity. The Hebrew word for tzedakah is righteousness. God says the right thing to do is to give tzedakah, is to help a person to make sure that a person is not wallowing in poverty. That's not a nice thing to do.
It's like an obligation.
It is an obligation. It is an obligation. Exactly. That's why if it wasn't an obligation, the government couldn't take taxes from it. I'm playing a video. The Rebbe says that everyone should have a charity box. Whoops! I hit the wrong one. Sorry. I screwed up my video here.
I was wondering, I have one, and what do I do when it's full?
You bring it to Chabad Apartment.
I thought that I have to count it, go to the bank, get it checked, bring it away.
No, we'll count it.
Okay, bring you all the coins.
Yeah, we'll count it. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
My business is very bad. You can give me a process.
You will put a socket with your business and arrange to have at least 10% given for the net income of the business to socket, to charity.
Thank you.
Your government let's have good news. That is put in the socket for the business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
אני דור 11 בישראל, אני פיתחתי נושא חדש מאוד חשוב לי לשלמות המשפחה, להצלחה של המשפחה, אני מבקש את ברכתך. ההמצאה היא המצאה מאוד חשובה ויחידה בעולם.
באיזה שטח?
בשטח האלקטרוניקה, אחסון של מידע מחשבים דרך הטלפון. זו ההמצאה היחידה בעולם.
מגיעים הצלחה רבה בשורות טובות. צריך להבטיח להשם שתהיה צדקה, בצדקה 10% מהדרך הנקי. זה ברכה והצלחה. ברכה רבה.
Okay.
And why is he giving him dollars?
So the Rebbe started giving out dollars. Sorry, the Rebbe started giving out dollars because after the Rebbe's wife passed away in 1988. The Rebbe's stopped having public audiences in 1981. The movement just got too big. So it was a way, number one, for people if you needed to meet the Rebbe, if you needed to. And number two, oh boy, here goes. Number two, it was an opportunity. The Rebbe wanted people to give charity and all those things. So that's what it was about. Never wanted to get people to give charity.
It's symbolic.
No.
Because it's $1.
Okay, so
It's
$1 million is made up of $1,000,001.
But
It's not symbolic; it's actual money. You know. By the way, let me ask you a question. Is this working? Oh, okay. I think it is. Let me ask you a question. What's better? What's more preferable? Let's say, for example, you are going to give $1,000 to charity. Should you give $1,000 at once, or should you break it up?
If I had it, I would give it at once.
Think about it. We're going to get to it. At the end, right? Think about it, right? So let's go through. We did this already. Okay, let's go through here and Okay. So tzedakah, back here, please. Too fast. Here you go. So tzedakah, we said, is the right thing to do. It's a person's responsibility. You must give tzedakah to the poor. You must give charity to the poor. Tzedakah, charity, is a societal obligation, not just a personal one. So if one person can't, we need to make sure. Ultimately, we have to try to prevent people from actually being poor. And the economy should be structured in a way that it keeps people from being poor. So, how did it translate into the world? Well, like I said earlier, Christianity adopted a lot of these ideas. Islam, hospitality is one of the bedrocks. Is one of the bedrocks of society. But I showed you from the quote from the Black Plague. Christianity, it focuses a lot on alms, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit different. I want to show you a video where Thomas Jefferson, right, first president of the United States, talks about this concept of yovel. Well, he doesn't say the word yovel. He talks about the concept in Judaism that everybody should be able to own land. He took lessons from the Torah, and they try to implant it in this is the appendix, by the way. You can find the appendix on page 25. We're kind of very, very late. It's very, very, very interesting. Basically, I'll give a very, very brief.
Page 25?
Page 25, yeah. It's text 17a. Yeah. I'll give a very, very, very brief ancient history. So before there was the Roman Empire, before there was the Roman Empire, there was what was it called? It was called the Roman Republic. If it has your ancient history on.
Okay.
Okay. So in the Roman Republic, there was democracy where they voted, but there were two groups of people. There was the patricians and the plebeians, called the plebeians. Basically, there was the aristocrats and the regulars, right? And basically, the aristocrats, the patricians, they got all the land. And officially, the plebs had representation, but it was insignificant. And there was these people who tried to pass some laws, but the aristocrats had them killed. So what happened is the Roman Republic collapsed because there was a massive divide between the haves and have-nots. And every society, every democracy, has learned from this Roman Republic. It's the first democracy in known society. Every democracy, including the United States, has learned from there. So when the founding fathers were thinking of how do we establish a society and it shouldn't collapse, they looked to it. Text 17a talks about this Petrus Cornelius was a Hebraic. Hebraic was one of during the times of the Renaissance, the Torah became very in style. Do you know Hebrew was almost the language spoken in the United States of America? Do you know that? Mm-hmm. Do you know on the Mayflower? Who came on the Mayflower? Puritans. Mm-hmm. Pure of what? They wanted to take the Bible the way it is. They had a vote on the Mayflower if Hebrew should be the spoken language of the new land. The vote lost. But could you imagine? Mm-hmm. Hebrew was almost a language. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but you see text 17a, and he knew the Torah, and he knew the Maimonides, but And you see, again, it's very, very, very interesting. Unfortunately, it's already after 9 o'clock. I don't want to go too long. But I'm going to show you the video that Thomas Jefferson writes based on what this Petrus Cornelius, he is from the 1500s into the 1600s, based on that we do not allow. There was a law called entailed land. You heard of the concept entailed land? And the other one is pre-mortgagure land. You ever heard of that? That basically means that the land is passed down from the father to the oldest son, and the land is never broken up. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never broken up. So they passed laws abolishing this law. Why? Because Thomas Jefferson learned from the Torah, based on that in order to get people out of poverty, we have to bridge the gap. In order to have a middle class in the country, people have to have economic opportunity, which up until, like I said, 100 years ago was agricultural opportunity. Watch this video. Okay, said this already? Beautiful. Very nice. Okay, see? Now you see it, now you don't. Did I just do something? I did do something. I hit the keyword. That was a beautiful. Take two.
Today, it is widely taken for granted that governments ought to offer various forms of care for the weaker elements of society and structure their economies to minimize poverty. But how and when did these priorities become the norm? The answer draws us back to the ancient saga of the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. Founded in 509 BCE, the Roman Republic was history's first representative democracy. Its citizens elected administrative bodies that ruled the state. That sounds progressive, but the Republic was structurally biased against its common citizens. The Republic was dominated by a Senate, operated by elite nobility, known as patricians, from the Latin word for fathers. All other citizens were called plebeians, or simply plebs, regular non-privileged people, and they operated a plebeian council with significantly lesser powers. Inequality was aggravated when the Republic captured vast territories and enslaved foreign populations. The nobility seized the land, along with the enormous slave force of captives, denying the ordinary plebs any share. This combination of free land and labor led to vast plantations for the elite, who then sold produce at greatly reduced prices, forcing plebeian farmers to abandon their small farms and denying jobs to Romans. The result was overcrowded cities filled with poor, unemployed citizens. Discontent simmered until, in the 2nd century BCE, two brothers rocked the foundations of Roman society. Tiberius Gracchus was elected to head the plebeian council, determined to improve the lot of his fellow commoners. His central policy was an agrarian law, enforcing the redistribution of conquered land that had been seized by the nobility. But the patrician Senate did not appreciate this legislation. The ensuing political crisis led to the murder of Tiberius and many of his supporters at the hands of a Senate-mobilized mob. Tiberius's brother Gaius tried to revive his slain brother's policies, but he met a similar bloody end. The patricians had stifled land ownership reform, but the strife unleashed by this conflict continued to ferment and eventually led to the collapse of the Roman Republic 1 century later. On the ruins of the Republic, the dictatorial Roman Empire arose. With their Republic dead, ancient Roman historians analyzed its failures and arrived at a far-reaching conclusion. It was the fault of the Gracchi brothers' attempt to involve the government in economic reform. The Gracchi plan to level the playing field at the expense of the nobility's powerful monopoly had invited destabilizing class warfare. And therefore, all future governments must avoid legislation aimed at fair distributions of land or wealth at all costs. This way of thinking became an orthodoxy in political theory for the next millennia and a half. But in the 17th century, perspectives began to shift. The Renaissance and the Protestant Reformation led scholars to delve deeply into Jewish texts. The Hebrew Bible, its Jewish commentaries, the Talmud, Maimonides, Kabbalah, and Jewish history. One Dutch scholar, Petrus Cannaeus, born in 1586, made a compelling case for modeling contemporary European society on what he called the Hebrew Republic, the ancient civilization established by the Jews in the Holy Land based on the Torah's laws. He was fascinated by Yovel, the Jubilee laws, which guaranteed that each Jewish family would own land that would not be permanently removed or sold, even due to poverty. Cannaeus identified Yovel as the Torah's successful predecessor to Rome's failed agrarian law, and he therefore insisted that providing the poor with economic opportunity secured by land ownership was a golden key to the survival and success of a civilization. This was a radical argument, turning centuries of political thought on its head. Cannaeus' conclusion was enthusiastically adopted by the great English Republican, James Harrington. In his 1656 vision of the perfect republic, Harrington incorporated fair distribution as a vehicle to enable economic independence for all citizens as a key component. Harrington's writings fluttered across the Atlantic, heavily influencing the founding fathers of the United States, and especially Thomas Jefferson, the third American president. Jefferson turned these Torah-inspired ideals into a campaign to establish a fair republic by preventing the rise of an aristocracy. He abolished land ownership laws that concentrated land in the hands of the wealthy few and strove to establish free public education for all children, regarding educational opportunity as critical to economic opportunity. The rest is history. Government action to empower the poor and improve economic opportunity for all citizens is now unanimously accepted as integral to free, democratic society. But the route this idea traveled remains remarkable, from the Torah's concept of Yovel to its ancient Jewish implementation in the land of Israel, from the Talmud's exposition to Maimonides' codification of social laws, and then a great leap across cultures to Petrus Cannaeus, the 17th century author of the Hebrew Republic, and further across the channel to English political theorist James Harrington, and further yet to American founding father Thomas Jefferson, and finally, from America to the wider world, social welfare and equal opportunity are remarkable gifts of the Jews.
Interesting. Another thing: the only entirely negative clause in the Constitution doesn't have the positive. Is that it says there shall be no titles given in the United States, no law or anything, because they wanted to make sure this concept of everyone. This is again, we take it for granted.
Yep.
All political candidates talk about that. They all say folks, and they all say how they're fighting for the middle class. And we all say, of course. Not of course. This is something the Torah said 3,500 years ago that slowly made its way into society. Okay, so let's review. Practically speaking. And this is very important, because today you kind of the pendulum has swung all the way to the other side. Now people say, it's the government's job to provide for the poor. Not my problem. Right? And that's wrong. Government doesn't replace social responsibility. We all still have the responsibility of helping another person when we can. Number two, we have to give charity tithing the net after taxes and everything else. We all have to give. Recurring charity makes us even more generous, as you can see in text number 16. By the way, text number 16 to answer the question: breaking up charitable donations into smaller things. Meaning, when you're actually giving, it helps. Why? Because taking something from you and giving it hurts. When you get into the habit of giving of yourself, it comes easier. I'll tell you a story. There was a guest in a town. He was invited by a guy's house for a Shabbat dinner, and the host was a little bit of a vulgar, brute man, and he had challah there, and he would take off the large piece of challah and eat it. And the guest was more of a refined individual. He took a knife and cut a small piece, and then when he wanted more, he cut another small piece. So finally, the host says, "Why do you do that? You can end up eating half the challah anyway. Just take a whole challah." So what do you make? What do you care how I eat the challah? I cut a piece, because every time you cut a piece, you're cutting a slice of my heart. You're stabbing me, right? Right. So giving charity is hard. It takes. We have to acclimate it and accustom ourselves. That's why Maimonides writes, if we can give it, breaking it up, then it helps us get into the habit. Everyone should have a tzedakah pushka, a tzedakah box in their home, preferably in the kitchen, because the Rebbe said in the kitchen is where we focus on ourselves the most. You walk into the kitchen to make yourself something to eat. You take care of yourself. You have a tzedakah pushka. The Rebbe said hanging to the on the wall. It's not something. It's anchored. It's a main part of your home. That's very important. And also tzedakah. If you noticed, every event we do here, we always have a pushka on the table. That's not just because Chabad wants money. It's because the idea the Rebbe said that we want to give people the opportunity to give tzedakah, because tzedakah is the most fundamental Jewish idea, because everything stems from tzedakah. That's why when, like the famous line, when the guy came to Hillel and said, "What's the foundation for the Torah?" He said, "Well, you don't like to be done to yourself, don't do to other people." And the rest of the Torah is commentary. Okay? So if we get tzedakah right, if we could look at another person and say, it's a brother, it's a sister, I want to make sure, not that they're alive, they're existing, but they're thriving, they're flourishing, then it's a whole different outlook. Okay, exercise 1.4. Think to yourself, who do you know that need help, and what action can you take this week? This week you got to think of someone you can help, and how you can help them. Does everyone over here have a pushka? I know you have a pushka. You have a tzedakah box, you know? Yes. So now we actually have to use it. All right, key points. And
Lesson 1.
you go.
No man an island. 1. Responsibility for others, as exemplified by our forefather Abraham, is a basic principle of the Torah that animates many mitzvot. 2. In Jewish law, charity is both an individual as well as a communal imperative. Jewish law maintains that A. The dignity of the poor must be preserved. B. People may be compelled to contribute. And C. The wealthier people are, the more they must contribute. The combination of these principles results in the traditional Jewish practice of providing for the poor through the payment of a tax to a communal charity fund. 3. The highest form of charity is to prevent someone from falling into need. The Jubilee laws that guaranteed land ownership for all Jews in the land of Israel served this purpose. 4. The Torah approach to charity functions on 2 levels: preventing poverty and caring for the poor. Within both of these levels, individual as well as communal efforts are required. 5. The underlying Torah theory of charity is that all of our material possessions ultimately belong to God. We hold them as a trust on God's behalf and must use them to benefit the needy in accordance with His instructions. 6. The ancient world, including the great Greek and Roman civilizations, did not adopt the Jewish value of caring for others and did not practice charity. The personal mandate to help the needy reached the world only after the Christians adopted it. 7. The now universal concept of structuring the economy to minimize poverty can be traced from the mitzvah of the Jubilee year to 17th century Hebraists, and all the way to Thomas Jefferson and the founding fathers of the United States.
All right, next week we're going to talk about the concept of monotheism. The fact that the concept of one being, one power, because for millennia, thousands of years, the societies believed in multiple gods. Now that's not in vogue. Where does that come from? Where did that change? We'll talk about that. All right? Good stuff. Next week. Bring a friend next week.